Hello and welcome to WITV7. I'm your host, Byron Pettit. We are here today at Family Matters. Family Matters airs every Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Family Matters is a show that brings on people discuss real issues in real time. My hope is every time you tune into Family Matters that you leave this show gaining some insight, maybe to make some changes in life or maybe to help somebody else. Today, I'm excited to have a good friend of mine. I've known this dude for over 30 years. We used to run, I'm not gonna say run the streets. We used to run together in Tacoma, Washington. He was a roommate, played basketball together, played baseball together, even hung out at times together. But he's a real solid individual. He's a family man. He is a father. He is a husband, and he loves God. It's my good friend, always gonna be my good friend until we leave this earth. Marcus Jenkins. My man, Mark, buddy.
It's an honor and pleasure to be here. And with all sincerity, it's good to see that that you're building something that is so impactful.
Appreciate that, boss, man. Appreciate it. I'm glad you came on, man. We talk so much for me, it's on the ride home from work. You probably still at work. We always make time available for one another. And that's true friendship. And I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that from the end. The minute I met you way back when we was in Parkland out there in Tacoma, we was hanging out and I said, this is a solid dude. So I'm glad our relationship has been able to be sustained. Even since I live now in North Carolina, we still cool. Because, for a lot of African-Americans, particularly Black men, we don't discuss our mental health. We don't discuss it from a standpoint because we've always probably been conditioned or taught or even raised to kind of keep things in and handle it yourself. You a man, you don't discuss that sort of thing. But I think we need to uncover that. We need to take that off and begin to discuss some of the things, both individually and collectively as Black men in regards to how our mental health is impacting us. Talk about, from your perspective, how do you view mental health as a father and a husband? How do you view mental health?
There's all kind of layers of mental health. Majority of it undiagnosed. But I would say that for me, it's just healing from the trauma of this world and how we see our place in this world and how it applies to, what we have to face out in the world and how we bring it back home into our intimate lives.
Yeah, true. Very good. Very good. As we talked offline, man, again, we've known each other for 30 plus years. And I'm gonna be honest, I think it might have been in the last, like I said, 6 months to a year that you kind of expressed to me about your own mental health challenges. Was this something that you kept a secret for a long time? Were you not comfortable sharing it? Or you just felt like, hey, it's time to bring it out and discuss it with everybody so those, again, who are impacted, they can find there's nothing wrong sharing what their mental health journey is about. What was that like for you? Did you feel, were you at a place with the discussing your mental health, I should ask?
Well, here's a funny thing. I wasn't actually diagnosed for a specific mental health disorder until the end of my last marriage, was probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And so, I've been living my whole adult life, sort of spinning my wheels around, my behavior and, my whole thought process, and in my history of decisions that I've made in my life. So it wasn't until at the end of my last divorce or at the end of my last marriage where I sought, a mental health profession and was clinically diagnosed.
Now, if you don't mind, man, sharing what you mentioned, like some of the behaviors and some of the things that you were doing and how it impacted marriage. What sort of things impacted the marriage? Like, you can go as specific as you want. You can be as vague as you want. What sort of things you said, man, this is what impacted the ending of this marriage, which caused me to go and get some health in regards to some of the behavior and things that I was doing.
So I was clinically diagnosed as bipolar. And most often that's a misdiagnosed, um, uh, it's a misdiagnosed mental health disposition. And so a lot of the behavior has been a lifelong of of pattern of behavior. And so how I guess I can describe it to my marriage was just a lot of highs and lows, and just irritability and short-temperedness, combative. Um, those are the most obvious types of things that um, that destroy relationships, let alone destroy marriage. And so just the inability to to even be able to identify what was really going on with me, these things just became sort of it just became how you would describe my personality, so these things are happening in real time, but if if you don't understand the chemical makeup of your mind, you really don't understand why you're behaving a certain way.
And I'm smiling, man, because like again, we've known each other for 30 plus years. So if you said at the end of like my first marriage and I decided to go get some assistance, either, and I guess me giving you credit in regards to this, when we hung out, I didn't see, some of the things that you mentioned, the irritability, the short temperedness, and we were in our 20s. So maybe some of the behavior that
Right.
we had, again, we didn't have destructive behavior, audience. So let's be clear. It was just, we was in our 20s. So some of the stuff you were doing or you mentioning, I would have never noticed it as a friend. And even as a friend, what would I have been able to do anyhow with that if you were diagnosed at an early age? One, would we still be friends? Because a lot of folks have a difficulty in sustaining relationships with someone who they feel, quote unquote, oh, they've got mental health issues. What am I supposed to do? So it's interesting. What would have been like if you would have got clinically diagnosed at an early age? Would that have necessarily changed the trajectory of your life? Because you're still a successful person, but do you think would have changed things in your life if you would have got diagnosed early?
Well, see, let me absolutely answer your question, and let me say that that when you don't understand your mind and you don't understand your DNA and how that this is a pre-genetic disposition, then you start to believe that this is just who you are. And the thing about once you get into more intimate relationships with somebody you're living with on a daily basis, you know, then all of those things that you didn't see become magnified in those types of relationships. And they did not only permeate just in my marriages, but they permeated throughout all relationships I had in my life with just family members and co-workers and bosses. And so all those things, as you grow in life and the stakes get larger because you start to have you start to make a family, you start to have to pay a mortgage, you have things that people are dependent on you. As those things start to the stakes get higher, then those things, those all of those traits and behaviors and stuff that you say that you never notice, those things start to loom larger and they become more magnified. So um you know it when you look back at our relationship or just us as human beings, we're both high level functioning individuals. So it's easy to mask a lot of your idiosyncrasies, because you're just people like us are high functioning, um, I've always had a job. I haven't been homeless. I've been able to sustain some type of structure, you know, and discipline, and just my, in my overall life. But at the same time, like I said, when you get in more of these intimate relationships, then that's when these behaviors, patterns, and stuff start to, rear its ugly head.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a great point too, is in regards to, like I said, getting more intimate relationships. All of a sudden, the transparency become a little bit more vulnerable, and in becoming vulnerable, like you said, now I've got to really, how can I say it? I've got to address these mental health issues up front with someone else. And this someone else, are they willing to stay with me and sustain a relationship and be there and support me in a manner of, like you said, whether it be the irritability, the short temperness, the mood swings, what have you. So that's interesting, like you said, and particularly as a Black man. Think about it, as when I opened up as a Black man, we sometimes got to shoulder things that we shouldn't have to shoulder based solely on our skin color. Now, if you was a Black man, as a Black man, be able to say, hey, I'm dealing with mental health issues, folks gonna be like, okay, he's even more of a target, more irritable, because he's not only Black and a threat, but he's also dealing with mental health issues. Let me ask you a question. When you was able to finally come to, like you said, get clinically diagnosed, come to terms and understanding what you are living with, how did that impact your relationship with Justice? And shout out to Justice's daughter, who's a very intelligent young lady. Did it change your relationship with your daughter at all, in regards to you identifying that you had you struggle with mental health at times?
Yeah. So, as a parent, um, you're constantly, evaluating, like, what are you doing that is advancing the health, safety, and growth of your children, right? So you're constantly in a state of, as all parents are, uh, of insecurity, because there's no manuals for raising kids, right? And we always look at, our children are our most vulnerable part of us, of our spirit, as in our soul. Our children are, because we know that they depend on us to survive. They depend on us to grow. And so, um, you know, you're constantly, in the state of insecurity of, like, am I doing the right thing as a parent? Am I causing my kid to suffer, or am I causing my kid to prosper? And so, you know, as I'm going through this, and trying to deal with my own uh, self-care and mental health, it's a constant reflection on what kind of parent that I am to my child. So our relationship definitely has changed, because, now I may have an ability to see things in her that I might be passing on down to her genetically. And so I'm also observing her life with a more, critical eye, based on the things I know about myself, and being extra cautious, and being able to identify, is she going through some of the similar paths that I did, and do I have the ability to cut that off before, something bad happens to them.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I think, like you said, not only being cautious, but also preparation for her down the line as she gets older. There's some things that she may see, may experience. You can say, aha, I've been at that place. Here's what you should do, A, B, and C. So yeah, let's do this. Let's go to commercial. When we come back, I want to talk some more with Marcus in regards to mental health and how he deals with it on a day-to-day basis.
Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made for good people. That's why I love Happy Living's online e-course. It's an 8-week long deep dive into you and the inspired life you want to live. the life you were put here on this earth to live, the one that you and only you can live. 8 weeks of lectures and ideas and topics and supporting materials and powerful self-improvement tools, all designed for you, all designed to help you create the tools and the power and the confidence you need to discover your purpose and to discover the life you were meant to live and to feel incredibly inspired and motivated to decide you will live your life to its fullest. It's all designed to help you create the unique and distinct philosophy of you and your inspired life. Go to happyliving.com, select our e-course, and save $100 with promo code WYTV7. And for every enrollment, I'll donate another $100 to WITV7. For $300 and about 30 hours, I promise you'll never, ever be the same again.
Hello and welcome back to WITV7. I'm your host, Byron Pettit. I have my man here today, Marcus Jenkins, all the way from Tacoma, Washington, talking about mental health. Marcus, so what I want to ask you, in the first half, you talked about the end of your first marriage caused you to say, look, I possibly need to seek some help. What specifically took you into counseling? Was it the mood swings? Was it depression? And what was there a specific issue that took you into counseling? And what did you find out why you were in counseling?
So, one thing about the bipolar diagnosis, it's related to depression, ultimately. And the thing about depression, people that, are genetically predisposed to depression, it's not the kind of thing for people who don't understand that you just have a bad day and you feel bad and, you cry or you just feel awful because you just had a bad day. Depression for people that have the chemical imbalance, when you're depressed, it doesn't matter what happened, what preceded it, or what things happen. Moving forward, like you really feel like you're going to die. You feel like it's the end of the world. And so, when I was depressed, and and think about it, there's certain events that can happen that could push you over the edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could cause you to go into a deep dive, and my last marriage was my second marriage. So, the feeling ashamed of failing in 2 marriages, the position I was putting my kids in and my ex-wife's kids in, caused me to crash where, there were days where I didn't want to live, I was close to thinking that I was going to harm myself or harm somebody else. So really the choice to go seek help was out of desperation.
Okay, so now we going to get the help. We get the diagnosis. Now, did they give you, okay, Marcus, you need to go to the gym and work out, or did they prescribe medication for you to take, say, quote, on top of going to gym, Marcus, I would probably encourage you, or not encourage you, you need to take this medication. So you given medication as well to take?
So when you're in that crisis mode, they need to give you something chemically to stabilize you. Okay, so I mean it automatically rises to the level of medication. Okay, they screen you, they interview you, and the professionals take a deep dive into your lives. But when you're in that crisis mode, it almost 99% of the time it means it's going to lead to medication.
Okay, so the medication, now do you mind me asking, so you you continue to take medication to this day to, I'm gonna use the word, to stabilize you.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so at first I was on an antidepressant and a mood stabilizer. And so currently I'm on a mood stabilizer.
Okay.
And so um one of the drawbacks to that is, there's always side effects to all kind of medicine. No matter how subtle the side effects are, they, there's going to be some drawbacks. And when we talk about men who don't like to take medication, don't want to take medication, a lot of it is fear for those side effects that happen or could possibly happen. And then a lot of it is, I think a lot of people, men specifically, think that it's going to change their personality. Um, Sometimes when you are in crisis, you have to deal with uh, the most imminent thing first, and then you move down the line to deal with to see if you can deal with some of the other issues. Like you said, my lifestyle change, the self-care, starting to take care of myself, my body, my diet, and all that stuff. That's all part of um uh it's all part of the rehab of you of you as a person. But definitely the medication has to be it usually is in the forefront.
Yeah, and let me give you, I mean, I know you don't need it, man. Again, I know you're a strong brother anyhow, but let me just commend you, and for the listening audience who either maybe male or female, and again, particularly Black men, we won't take the medication. I believe there is a stigma behind being cool and being tough, but thank you for sharing with us that, yeah, I take the medication. I take it as a mood stabilizer. I take it. It's a part of who I am. But let me go a step further. No one will know you taking medication unless you out there people you taking medication. You can put the same
Mhm.
medication from a doctor inside a Flintstone car. No one knows. So
Right,
we need to get away
right.
from feeling this sort of stigma like, oh, I'm taking medication. No one knows unless you tell them. So the first step, but I think part of it, like you said, is the growth and where you are in your own life. So a lot of people, again, not saying they're not grown, it's just if we can get away from the stigma piece of trying to take medication, because I'd rather take the medication to stabilize me than what you said, not to potentially harm myself or harm others. So kudos to you, my good brother. Kudos for you for staying the course and taking whatever need to help you stay here for your wife and for justice. Now, let me ask you a question. How does the mental health challenge you have, is it, how can I say it? How does it impact you? And what I mean, like physically, or day to day, do you ever get tired? Do you feel like I don't want to take it from a physical standpoint? Do
Yeah, so I mean, it's a constant, deliberate, um, conscious uh uh pattern of taking care of yourself every day. And part of it is, being in the routine of just taking the medication. Um, and one of the things when you start to go to therapy, you seek counseling, and you seek basically doctors, people that have spent their whole lives studying this stuff, studying the brain, studying human behavior, studying people. Like you have all of this knowledge behind, you know, what people in the mental health profession are actually doing to cure you. Just like if you have heart problems, just if you had a lung problem, like you go to a professional and they give you stuff to make you better. But your brain operates the same way. Your brain has to have the same amount of care. Your brain can be broken just like any other part of your body, and it's just like going to a hospital when you're sick, for any other ailment in your body. Your brain has to have the same amount of treatment. So, we need to start looking at it as your brain as just another part of your body that when it's not operating optimally, you still got to go to the doctor to get it fixed, you know. So daily, you know, it's a matter of being conscious about, you know, um what what I know about myself, and being able to identify certain tendencies, and to be able to respond to the things that happen out there in the world on a daily basis that could cause some trigger moments for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you talked about, man, when you saying that there was a dark, I'm gonna use the word dark. You use the word dark, I'm gonna use it. There was a moment in your life where you thought like, man, to live, there's things going on. And you and I, again, talk offline quite a bit. And we both talk about our faith. Talk about, even though you may have felt, man, do I really want to live? How God influenced you, or how God has played a major role in your life in regards to dealing with mental health.
Well, you know, uh, being a Christian, uh, it doesn't insulate you from uh, the human condition, and the feelings that can overcome your person as you're going through things. And and you know, as we study the Bible, as we've grown up in the church, you know, you look at stories, all these different people, you know, in the Bible that have been in dire situations, and the only thing they had to hold on to was their relationship with God or relationship with Christ. So definitely my faith, you know, and being able to look my child in the eye and realize that, like, I have purpose, you know, left, like, you know, that um God has a purpose for me, and I may not see it right now, but I gotta hold on and see this thing through. And so um you know, prayer, I mean, you know, knees bruised and bloody during that time, you know.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
Thinking like, you know, if this, you know, just, you know, just knowing that, like, you know, this this has to be for some reason that I'm going through this. You know, you made me in the image of your son, you know. So, you know, I know that, you know, you think about, you always go back to, you know, um the brutality that happened to Christ, you know, on his way up to Calvary. And you're thinking like, you know, this is just another test, you know, that, you know, there's always the, you know, the darkness before the light. Um, and so all those things that, you know, that you're just struggling to hold on to when you think there's nothing left, you know. And so um definitely when it comes to your self-care, self-love, um, your rehabilitation, um, as a man, as a human being, like, it's all connected to your faith in God.
Yeah, you know, like you said, man, I always smile too when we talk, because we have daughters. Sometimes, you know, we talk about, God, what is our purpose? Some purpose is just to make sure I walk my two daughters down the aisle. So, you know, something simple, that's what we're
Exactly.
here for. We here because purpose, but one of them, Lord, let it be that we're gonna walk our baby daughters down the aisle and give her hand in marriage to somebody else. So it sounds silly, but if you don't have a purpose in life, sometimes it's so much easier for you just to give up. And yeah. So Marcus, the mission of WITB7 is to educate, empower, and encourage. What can you say to the listening audience, man? Because you've done that, but what is there anything specific, whether you talk about education, about empowering or encouraging somebody who's listening to this podcast today in regards to dealing with mental health or how to take care of your mental health? What would you say?
I'm gonna say that 99% of the people walking this earth have either some undiagnosed or diagnosed mental health predisposition. As Black people specifically, we deal with PTSD um on a daily basis. right?
Mm-hmm.
There's been studies done. There's been studies done on the DNA of the survivors of the Jews from the Holocaust and how it affects the certain aspects of their health and in the people walking today that are descendants of. So what do you think that 400 years of slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and the modern day policing has done to the DNA of Black people here in America today? Like, so it is in our, it's the stress and trauma is in our DNA. PTSD is a form of mental health.
Yeah.
And so, what I would say is that, like, even if you think that your life is manageable, you think you're prospering, you think everything is as good as it could be, realize that if you're black specifically, in this environment where we have daily microaggressions towards us, that it will always help to seek um some counseling, just to talk to somebody, just to talk about your relationships, just to talk about your family. There needs to be a space for us as adults, as men, to be able to deal with the daily stuff, because so we get so used to just having to fight them battles that we become normalized. It becomes normalized in our life. Them kind of stress becomes normalized, but it's not normal. It isn't normal. And I think that we need to start looking at our lives as how much more better it could be than basically what we sort of relegated our emotions to handle. You know, the stuff that our kids are dealing with in this world, just to be a parent in this world right now. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of weight that we got to carry around on a daily basis, and it affects you physically. So I would just say that that we should always be striving to learn how to love ourselves more, and to take care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit.
All right. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. I appreciate you, man, just coming on and speaking time and just being candid and having a conversation. Seek out help if you need it, number one. And if whoever you're speaking to, counselor, therapist, doctor, psychiatrist, whoever prescribes medication, please take the medication. Please take the medication, because if the medication is prescribed to help you, we want you to be here. I believe everyone has a purpose in life. Everyone does. Everyone has a purpose in life. And if that purpose and tells us for some of us have to take medication, please take that. Also, Marcus, one last thing. If people want to get a hold of you, is there a way they can get a hold of you? Got a phone number you want to give? Because somebody may want to say, hey, Marcus, I want you to come on. Or Marcus, can I talk to you in regards to what my struggle is?
So I got off most social media, and that was part of my it's part of my self-care.
Okay.
And so I can be reached out at my email address is Marcus J, MARCUS JAY 21 at gmail.com. And I'll be happy to connect with anybody, because I believe my purpose in this world is to share my experience and grow from other people's experiences.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can contact me at 704-288-4612 or go to my website. It's www.practicalfamilyresolutions.com, or you can email me at practicalfamilyresolutions.com. If you like the show, you want to donate, go back to WITV7.org and hit the donate button. And if you hit the like button. We appreciate you coming on. Love you, Marcus, man. I'll be in touch with you. Look forward to you coming
down
you
back 2 times.
with me. All right. Take care.
All right.